following is a presentation of the Fairfax Network.
From the simplest of words to the most intricate of debates, words glean emotions, relay experiences, share knowledge, and design our future dreams. The give and take of language defines us as humans and guides us to our own unique individuality.
Good night, moon.
In a great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of
the cow jumping over the moon.
And three little bears sitting on chairs.
And two little kittens and a pair of
mittens.
And a little toy house and a young mouse.
And a comb and a brush and a bowl full of mush.
And a quiet old lady who was whispering, hush.
Good night, room.
Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon.
Good night, light. And good night, red balloon.
Good night, bears. Good night, chairs.
Good night, kittens, and good night,
mittens.
Good night, clocks, and good night, socks.
Good night, little house, and good night,
mouse.
Good night, comb, and good night, brush.
Good night, nobody. Good night, mush.
And good night to the old lady whispering, hush.
Good night, stars.
Good night, air.
Good night, noises everywhere. Good night.
Language is a code made up of rules that include what words mean, how to make words, how to put them together, and what word combinations are best in what situations. Speech is the oral form of language. The learning of language begins with exposure to this speech, talking, explaining, modeling the need and function, encouraging use, guiding while using speech, providing feedback, more modeling and guidance until speech is an independent function. As the child continues to grow and develop, she begins to join the language she has been hearing and speaking with the words and symbols she sees all around her.
Can you give Scruffy a pat, pat, pat? Watch Mama. Pat, pat, pat.
Children are preparing to read and write from birth. Yes, birth. How is it a child learns to read and write? Just like learning to talk. When the child is surrounded by the sounds of language, now the child must be immersed in the language of print. A child first sees print as functional and useful. Then she begins to scribble, similar to the oral babblings. She is making rough approximations. In turn, she gets positive attention from parents for trying, then tries to do even more, and so on. Let's look at a child approaching this emergent stage of literacy.
M. O. What did it say? Dear
Mom, I love you.
The term emergent literacy describes a child in the process of becoming literate. Terms such as pre-reader, reading readiness, or prerequisite skills do not sufficiently describe this exciting time. Emergent literacy takes into account reading and writing. From the start, there is a relationship between the two, each influencing the other in the course of development. Emergent means that young children are in a developmental process. There is no single point where literacy begins. Emergent literacy is learning prior to formal education, a continuum of increasing competence. This is why parents and caregivers are essential for demonstrating the literate behaviors of reading and writing print. Children observe the actions of their role models and subsequently construct their own knowledge about the world of print. Literacy learning proceeds naturally if the environment supports young children's experimentation with print.
Let's make a D. Yeah, D-A-D.
Interest in writing normally is sparked by early reading. Often you hear children say, "Make my name," or "How do you make a D?"
B-E-N spells bin.
There is a sense of accomplishment to marking a page, even with scribbles.
That looks beautiful.
Rickety, rackety rocking chair. I bring my book and my teddy bear.
To give children every opportunity to learn, read poems that celebrate the rhythm and beauty of language.
Read together.
Read repetitive stories.
Brown bear, what do you see? I see a red bird looking at me.
Have letters in many forms available to play with. Touch, magnets, velvet, flannel board, shaving cream, Jell-O.
Well, research into literacy now helps us to understand and realize that children are getting ready to read from birth. And of course, this takes place before any formal instruction. And as we've heard, this period is referred to as emergent literacy. The newborn to 2-year-old will have more oral language, of course, initially. The oral language will precede the literacy and then parallel it. For example, an 8-month-old will go from mouthing a book to a 12-month-old turning the pages in the book, and babbling might accompany this page turning, mimicking an adult's reading style. The 2 to 3-year-old produces understandable speech in response to pictures in books.
Do you see the kids?
Kids.
Yeah. What color is his shirt?
It's green.
Yeah, it's green.
This bag, where's that bag from?
McDonald's.
They recognize environmental print, such as the McDonald's arches, a stop sign, or an exit sign, and they can point to pictures in a book also and label them. And they make scribbles, sometimes trying to imitate the words or reproduce the words that they see in a book. The typical preschooler loves to be read to, and they love to read. When I go into a classroom, the first thing they'll ask me is, "Miss Debbie, what book did you read today?" Because I will normally bring a story to the classroom and read to the children. And a lot of times they'll have an opportunity to keep that book in the classroom, and they'll read it and read it again themselves. And they may not be reading the exact print that's there, but they've heard the story so much that they really know the words. But they do begin to recognize that the print in the book is what is read. It's not the pictures, but it's actually the print. And they begin to realize that every letter of the alphabet has a name. And they also begin to associate the sounds that those letters make. They will practice writing by first making scribbles on the paper, and then they'll make random strings of letters, and then they'll get to closer and closer approximations of the correct form for making an alphabet letter.
Can you come and put your ice cream cone?
They can recognize the letters in their own name. They can also listen to oral directions and follow those directions fairly well.
What kind of piggy is that?
It's a thumb piggy.
It's a thumb piggy. One thumb piggy.
When listening to a story, by the comments and questions that they ask you, you know that they understand the literal meaning of that story. they can understand sequence in a story. When they write something, they're writing a story, and even though it may just be scribbles and shapes, they come back and they read it to you as a story. So they really enjoy having things read to them and reading those things back to you.
What is phonemic awareness?
Phonemic awareness is the hearing of the sounds that are in language. The more children hear sounds repeated, the greater phonemically aware they become. When we repeat songs or rhymes or finger plays with our children, we are making them more phonemically aware. And if we tap or clap while we're doing that, we just increase this awareness. If we would do something like, "Pussycat, pussycat, where have you been?" "I've been to London to visit the Queen." All of that helps make our children more phonemically aware.
What does a literacy-rich home look like?
A literacy-rich home is a home where there is a lot of print and a lot of talking going on. A parent might use language a great deal to communicate with their child, but also use print to reinforce that language. There would be lots of books and magazines for adult pleasure, but also there would be lots of children's materials around. Parents might also want to label items in the child's room so that the child would begin to become comfortable with understanding that a set of symbols means a word or an item. Or they also might want to let the child read to them some of the things that they find in the home. Cookbooks, magazines, McDonald's bags, Burger King bags, something like that, so that the child has an opportunity to show that they understand as well that literacy is everywhere.
What's next?
One package, 10 ounce, about 40 regular marshmallows.
At an early age, children can acquire picture knowledge, print knowledge, page knowledge, and book knowledge. With continued exposure and maturation, children continue to learn the name of letters, the sounds letters can represent, terms such as letter, word, and sound. Children also realize that print conveys meaning. Print has directionality. We read from left to right and top to bottom, and that the words we speak can be recorded in print. In terms of evolution, reading is rather new. It is harder to learn to read, as it is neither automatic nor unconscious, like learning speech. Children must learn to make representations. Around 3 years old, children begin to notice the print all around them.
What store is that?
Kmart.
Kmart. How do you know that's Kmart?
Because it has a K. One line like that and one line down.
Very good.
They notice street signs, exit signs, traffic signals, labels on cereal boxes, toothpaste, and notes on the refrigerator. Knowledge of signs around them serves as a basis for learning about the alphabetic system.
Bus and stop sign.
If an apple a day keeps the doctor away, then reading aloud to your child each day keeps the tutor away. Researchers find that the single most important activity for building the knowledge required for eventual success in reading is reading aloud to children. This is especially so during the preschool years. Reading aloud to children helps them develop in the 4 main areas that form the foundation to literacy: oral language, cognitive skills, concepts of print, phonemic awareness.
There are just so many fun language activities you can do with your child when they're 3 and 4 years old. Make sure you give him pencils, crayons, markers, and chalk. Kids love to work with art materials. As he makes marks on the paper, he'll let you know that these marks have meaning. He will be able to convey language through his print and through the art.
There. Grandma's going to enjoy that.
Further along the continuum, children discover the relationship between sounds and letters.
What does the M sound like?
M.
M. At. Mat.
Before you know it, invented spelling begins to appear. He's writing words. It's important for parents to realize that this is an active process. Approximations must be allowed and encouraged. We don't need it to be the perfect spelling. Just like we see in speech with approximations or overgeneralizations like aminos, peoples, gooses. In children's writing, we'll see invented spellings like HS for house, APL for apple, MOME for mommy, and so on. That's okay. Allow your child to take these risks, and allowing him to take these risks and use these close words or approximations, giving it meaning helps him to move closer to standard form or competency.
I buy a ice cream.
Beautiful. And you did buy an ice cream, didn't you?
The older child can even read her own picture books.
If you give a dog a donut, he will want a mug of coffee. He will want a napkin. After all this work, the dog will want a donut. After he finishes, he will be a mess. He will take a bath. After the bath, he will ask for another donut.
Sometimes let your child select a wordless storybook like The Snowman. There are no words there, but the child tells the story from the pictures. When children share storybooks with their parents, they hear the same words over and over again.
Purple cat, what do you see? I see a...
I see a
white dog looking at me.
Soon, the children incorporate these words in their picture-governed storytelling. Soon after labeling pictures on each page, the child connects pages and a story is formed. Next, the child actually notices the text. A true reader is emerging. Soon their storytelling resembles the parents' reading of text with intonation in their voice. Once upon a time, they'll say it just like you say it.
There's a Papa Bear.
Papa Bear!
And here comes a Mommy Bear.
Mommy Bear.
And I'm the little baby bear.
What can a parent do at home with their child? Read with your child every day, at least 20 minutes. Read books that you enjoy. Read your child's favorite books over and over again.
Tomaré una foto. He can take a picture by himself, do you think?
No. Yes. No. Dogs don't take a picture.
Se me ve muy bien. Oh, he did. He really did.
The 4 or 5-year-old's brain is at its most accepting and ready to learn a second or even a third language. The power to learn language is so great in the young child. Compare this to an adult trying to learn a new language. To the adult, it becomes more like learning a skill or translating, but to a young child, it is more a natural acceptance.
difficult is it for children to learn to read?
Reading is one complicated process. In fact, it's amazing that we're able to learn to read at all. We really all ought to thank our teachers. Reading requires the ability to see or hear this information, so to have that primary sensory input, whether visual, which goes to the occipital lobe, or auditory, which goes to the temporal lobe. And then that information has to come in, go into association areas, mix with other information, and go into our receptive language area, Wernicke's area of the dominant temporal lobe, and then go across to the expressive language area, Broca's area. Of course, a child will initially learn to read aloud because they need that input of the sound of the word, just as they heard it and then they read it, then they reproduce it so they can hear it as they read it until they then develop silent reading, which is really a very sophisticated task.
Our children present us with a window of opportunity. While this window is open, we have the responsibility as parent, caregiver, teacher, to fortify language, as well as the physical, social, emotional, and intellectual aspects of children's development.
Do you see a word or a letter that you know?
Language acquisition mirrors brain development. It is a process, not a product.
What letter is that?
Literacy emerges as the child's senses are challenged, behaviors are modeled, and experiences are many and varied.
Veronica.
Beyond an offspring's immediate needs of hunger, shelter, safety, humans need to satisfy so much more. Give the child a smile, and for that she'll perform. Give the child a hug, and for that he'll nurture. Give the child words, and for that she'll change the world.
You're 4.